Captain Alara Voss had stopped counting the days since her capture. Time lost meaning in the sterile confines of the Sci-FI research facility, where purple-tinged lights hummed endlessly, and the air tasted of ozone and something else, something that reminded her of fear. The Zithari had been studying humans for 3 cycles now, ever since the first diplomatic mission went catastrophically wrong. They were a species built on hierarchy and dominance, reptilian creatures who measured worth by one's ability to instill terror. To them, humanity's compassion was a weakness, a genetic flaw to be catalogued and dissected. Alara had endured their tests with gritted teeth and silent defiance. Physical trials she could handle. Pain was temporary. Bones healed. But the Zithari were creative in their cruelty, and their latest experiment chilled her more than any torture ever could. Through the translucent walls of her cell, she watched them approach. 4 Zithari scientists accompanied by a floating containment unit, its contents obscured by swirling mist. The lead scientist, whose name translated roughly to Dominant Claw, pressed a scaled hand against the control panel. His vertical pupils fixed on her with something approaching satisfaction. Human Voss, his translator device crackled. Your species claims kinship with lesser beings, claims to nurture what should be conquered. We shall test this peculiarity. The containment unit's door hissed open. 3 shapes tumbled out onto the cell floor, small, covered in midnight black fur streaked with bioluminescent blue patterns. They couldn't have been larger than Earth house cats, but Alara recognized them immediately. Kathir cubs, the apex predators of the Zithari homeworld, creatures that grew to the size of Earth's great bears, with jaws that could crush bone and claws that could tear through reinforced steel. The cubs mewled, disoriented and afraid. One, slightly larger than the others with more pronounced blue markings along its spine, snapped at the air, already showing the aggression that would define its adulthood. These are Kor and his siblings, Dominant Claw continued. They have been starved for 2 solar rotations. You are meat, human, weak meat. They will tear you apart and you will finally understand the natural order. The Zithari scientists retreated, sealing the entrance. Alara heard their harsh laughter echo through the facility's corridors. She looked at the cubs. They looked at her. Kor, the larger one, took a tentative step forward. His lips pulled back, revealing needle-sharp teeth. A threatening hiss rattled in his throat. The other 2 cubs flanked him, forming a crude hunting formation despite their youth. Alara remained perfectly still. Her heart hammered against her ribs, but she forced her breathing to slow. She'd grown up on the agricultural colony of New Montana, where understanding animal behavior meant the difference between a successful harvest and disaster. These cubs were predators, yes, but they were also children. Frightened, confused children. Hey there, she said softly, making her voice as gentle as possible. It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. Kor's ears flattened against his skull. He crept closer, each movement a study in cautious aggression. Alara could see him trembling, not from eagerness, but from fear and hunger and the overwhelming stress of being torn from whatever den had birthed him. She slowly sat down, making herself smaller, less threatening. Then she did something that would have horrified the watching Zithari scientists. She turned her body slightly to the side, breaking direct eye contact. In the Predator Kingdom, direct staring meant challenge. Averted gaze meant deference, safety. Kor paused. His head tilted, processing this unexpected behavior. Alara began to hum, an old lullaby her mother had sung, something about stars and safety and the warmth of home. The melody drifted through the cell, soft and rhythmic. She'd read somewhere that low-frequency sounds could calm distressed animals. She had nothing to lose by trying. The cub's posture shifted almost imperceptibly. Kor's hackles lowered a fraction. One of his siblings sat down abruptly, as if exhausted by the effort of maintaining aggressive intent. Minutes passed. Then an hour. Alara kept humming, kept her posture relaxed despite every instinct screaming at her to protect herself. She thought of her crew, scattered across Zithari prison facilities. She thought of Earth, of green hills and blue skies and the children she'd hoped to have someday. Eventually, the smallest cub broke formation. It approached with uncertain steps, nose twitching. When Alara didn't move, didn't threaten, it came closer still. Its cold nose touched her hand. The contact sent electricity through her nerves, but she remained motionless. The cub sniffed her fingers, her wrist, her arm. Finding no aggression, no danger, it suddenly pressed its small body against her leg. The warmth was shocking. The trust was heartbreaking. Kor watched this betrayal of hunting protocol with what could only be described as confusion. His remaining sibling looked between him and the defector, uncertain. Finally, as if making a monumentally difficult decision, Kor approached. He stopped inches from Alara, studying her with eyes far too intelligent for his young age. She could almost see the calculations happening. Hunger versus safety, instinct versus this strange, gentle presence that sang soft sounds and offered no violence. He took the final step and curled against her other side. The third cub followed moments later, completing the circle of small, warm bodies pressed against the human captain. Alara finally allowed herself to breathe fully. Slowly, carefully, she moved her hands to rest on the cub's fur. They were soft despite their predatory nature, their bioluminescent markings pulsing gently with their heartbeats. Kor made a sound, not quite a purr, but something close. A sound of contentment. Through the cell walls, she could see the Zithari scientist standing frozen in shock. Dominant Claw's mouth hung open, his forked tongue flickering in agitation. "Impossible," his translator crackled. This defies all data. They should have killed her. They should have, but they hadn't. Because the Zithari, for all their research and observation, had failed to understand humanity's greatest strength. It wasn't their technology or their weapons or their stubborn resilience, though those things mattered. It was their ability to see kinship in the unlikeliest places. To offer gentleness when violence was expected. To recognize that fear and aggression often mask deeper needs for safety, for comfort, for connection. As the cubs slept peacefully against her, their small bodies rising and falling with each breath, Captain Alara Voss smiled. The Zithari had tried to break her spirit by turning innocence into weapons. Instead, they'd given her 3 new reasons to survive. And somewhere in the facility's databanks, a simple truth began to emerge in the researchers' reports. Humanity couldn't be broken by the tools of domination, because humans had spent millennia turning potential enemies into family. Even apex predators weren't immune to kindness, especially not when that kindness came from a species crazy enough to offer it.